Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's start. I'm Morgan Ingram. I'm 32 years old, an ER nurse, and a single mother. 3 weeks ago, at my sister's wedding, everything I had spent my life swallowing finally exploded in front of 200 people. But to understand why that moment hurt the way it did, I need to start much earlier. If you're still here, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you actually want to hear this story. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm curious who's sitting with me through this. I grew up in a 4-bedroom colonial house in Greenwich, Connecticut, the kind with a manicured lawn and neighbors who smiled politely but competed silently. Inside that house, there were two daughters, the princess and the reliable one. My younger sister, Vivian, was the princess. She was 4 years younger, blonde like my mother, effortlessly charming, the kind of girl teachers adored and boys noticed without her trying. From the moment she learned to talk, she was Daddy's angel and Mommy's little miracle. I was the other kind of daughter, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who didn't ask for much. In my family, that meant I didn't need attention because I could handle things myself. When Vivian wanted something, it was discussed. When I needed something, it was assumed I'd figure it out. Prom made that difference painfully clear. When Vivian went, my parents bought her a $500 designer gown, blush pink, hand-beaded, the kind that made people stare. When my prom came 2 years earlier, my mother looked at me over her glasses and said, "I didn't need anything flashy. I was simple," she said. I bought my own dress from the clearance rack at Macy's for $63. I remember the price because I counted my babysitting money twice before handing it over. Our bedrooms told the same story. Vivian had the corner room with a balcony, white furniture, fairy lights draped across the ceiling like something from a magazine. Mine was at the end of the hall, next to the utility closet, filled with old furniture from my grandmother's estate. I didn't hate Vivian for any of it. She was just a kid benefiting from rules she didn't make. But late at night, I used to wonder what was wrong with me that made my own parents look past me so easily. I met my ex-husband, Kevin, when I was 24, during my second year as an ER nurse. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel chosen. We married a year later. My parents came to the wedding, but most of the reception was spent talking about Vivian's upcoming internship in Manhattan. Even on my wedding day, I felt like a footnote. The marriage didn't last. Kevin had a way of making me feel small, of criticizing my choices, my body, my ambition. By the time I found out he was cheating, I was 7 months pregnant and barely recognized myself. I divorced him when our son, Ethan, was just over a year old. I was 27, working night shifts, juggling daycare that charged by the hour, coming home to a tiny apartment that never felt quiet enough or warm enough. My mother's reaction still echoes in my head. She sighed and said she always worried I didn't know how to keep a man happy. Vivian, she said, would never let something like that happen to her. My father said nothing. He rarely did. 2 years before the wedding, Vivian met Daniel Mercer at a charity gala. He was a children's rights attorney, quiet, observant, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. I met him once at a family dinner. While everyone talked over me, Daniel noticed Ethan hiding behind my legs and knelt down to talk to him. That small kindness stayed with me longer than I expected. When the wedding invitation arrived, it was thick, cream-colored, embossed in gold. The venue was a 5-star hotel in Manhattan. My parents were paying for everything. For context, when I got married, they contributed $2,000 and complained about it for months. 2 weeks before the wedding, Vivian called me. She asked me to wear something neutral, understated. She didn't want attention pulled away from her. She also asked, carefully, if I really had to bring Ethan. He was 5, she said, and children could be disruptive. When I explained I had no one else, she agreed, but said we'd be seated in the back, just in case. The morning of the wedding, my mother called to confirm. Table 23, near the service entrance. Don't make a fuss, she said. This day isn't about you. I should have understood then what was coming. But all I wanted was to get through the day without causing trouble. I didn't know I was walking straight into something that had been planned long before I ever stepped into that ballroom. The Kareli ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the soaring ceilings, white roses cascaded from every surface, and a string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner. I wore a dove-grey cocktail dress I'd found on sale, modest and forgettable, exactly as Vivian demanded. Ethan looked adorable in his little navy vest and khakis, clutching my hand as we stepped into the overwhelming grandeur. "Mommy, it's so pretty," he whispered. "It is, baby. Let's find our table." Table 23 was tucked in the far corner, half hidden behind a pillar near the kitchen doors. The other guests at our table were distant cousins I barely knew. My parents, of course, were elsewhere, working the room, smiling for every camera, praising Vivian at every turn. 30 minutes later, she swept in, radiant in a gown that probably cost more than my rent, her smile polished and deliberate. She glanced at Ethan, then at me. "Remember what I said about keeping him quiet?" she reminded. And then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd. The ceremony was beautiful. Vivian cried delicate, perfect tears as she exchanged vows. My parents beamed. Guests dabbed at monogrammed handkerchiefs. I sat in the back with Ethan on my lap, trying to feel something other than hollow. During cocktail hour, the photographer gathered family for portraits. I was about to rise when my mother appeared. "Just the immediate family for this set, Morgan," she said tightly. Ethan tugged at my sleeve, confused. "Mommy, why can't we be in the picture?" I held up my phone to snap a photo of him, trying to ignore the sting behind my eyes. The reception went on. Aunts, uncles, distant relatives approached the head table to congratulate Vivian. Not one came to our table. Then it happened. Vivian took the microphone, her voice honey-sweet but deliberate. "Morgan, could you stand up?" she called. 200 faces turned toward us. My legs felt like concrete, Ethan clutching me, trembling. "There she is." Vivian smiled. "My big sister, the one who taught me valuable lessons about life. She got married young, had a baby, and then, well, things didn't work out." A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the room. My mother chimed in. "She's a used product." More laughter. I looked down at Ethan, confusion and fear in his wide eyes. I tried to speak, but my throat had closed. I realized then this was not a joke. It was planned, scripted, a humiliation orchestrated for maximum impact. Vivian continued. "Some people are meant to be warnings, not examples, and my sister is the best warning I could ask for." Glasses were raised. Applause followed. Ethan's hand tightened around mine, his small body trembling. I wanted to disappear. Then Daniel moved. He rose from the head table with calm purpose, his polished Oxford shoes clicking against the marble floor. The laughter faltered. He approached Vivian, who froze mid-smile. "Daniel, sit down. I'm not finished," she protested. But he did not hesitate. He took the microphone gently from her hand. Silence fell over the ballroom, heavier than I'd ever experienced. 200 people stopped mid-sip, mid-laugh, mid-breath. "I apologize for the interruption," Daniel began, his voice steady, calm, controlled. But there is something I need to say. He turned to me, really looked at me, then back to the crowd. I have spent 2 years observing how this family treats Morgan Ingram. 2 years of dinners where she is ignored. 2 years of holidays where she is excluded. 2 years of watching her endure cruelty from the people who should love her. Vivian tried to grab his arm. Daniel, stop. You're embarrassing me. He stepped away. No, Vivian. You did that yourself. He gestured toward Ethan, pressed against my side, trembling. This little boy is 5 years old. 5. And he just watched 2 adults he should be able to trust humiliate his mother. You called her unwanted, damaged, a used product. His voice cracked slightly, but carried through the silent room. And I will not, I cannot, be part of a family that inflicts that on a child, or any person. 200 eyes were on my parents. Their faces went pale. My mother's lips trembled. My father's jaw tightened. Daniel continued. Morgan has devoted her life to caring for others, working night shifts, raising a child with love and resilience, and yet you have treated her as nothing. This stops now. Vivian opened her mouth, but no sound came. The room held its breath. Daniel looked at me again, then at Ethan. Morgan, you are not unwanted. You are not broken. You are not less than anyone here. And anyone who says otherwise, in front of a child, in front of the world, is exposed for what they are. For the first time that evening, I felt the weight lift. Daniel guided Ethan to stand beside me, and I straightened, my chest heavy but steady. Guests shifted. Uncomfortable laughter died. Whispers spread. My parents, the orchestrators of this humiliation, were caught in their own web. Vivian's perfect composure cracked, her carefully maintained image faltering. Daniel lowered the microphone. Silence lingered. 200 people had witnessed the truth. My worth was not determined by my family's cruelty. I knelt to Ethan's level. It's okay, baby. You don't need to understand. But we are okay. He clutched me tighter, his small tears soaking my sleeve. The rest of the reception passed in a strange haze. Vivian avoided eye contact. My parents hovered uneasily near the head table. And I? I sat with my son, finally feeling seen, finally safe. Not by the world, not by everyone, but by the one person who mattered that night. And for the first time in years I realized I had survived their judgment, their cruelty, their laughter. And I was stronger for it. My son had seen it too. He had seen the truth. And that was all that mattered.